at least. Okay, so this is our first cross initiatives meeting, which was my idea for the name. We'll see if we can have a better name. And the idea for this meeting is to figure out how we can unblock people and make progress on things that seem to be stalled, to identify things where people need help, people may need input from others. Maybe we'll figure out systemic problems with the process and try to propose solutions to them. Maybe we'll help inform the public, whoever is listening to these recordings, about what's going on with the initiatives. There's a lot of possibilities with the meeting. What I didn't want to do is for this meeting to feel like an obligation and for reporting for the sake of reporting. That would be bad. So if people don't find this meeting useful, then we should change the format. If we cannot change the format to be useful, then we should abandon doing the meetings. So the idea is to have meetings that are actually useful to unblock people instead of just spending your time on a call, which wouldn't make sense. So one thing that's probably should be discussed offline is that we ran out of slots in Google Hangouts. So we have 10 people here, and we would have 11 if there would be, or even 12, because Roy and Tim Millwood were about to join, but there's no more space available here. So if somebody has, people use Zoom apparently based on the chat. So if somebody has Zoom account that can record and publish, then we should probably switch to that unless there's a better alternative in the future. I don't have a Zoom account that can publish recordings publicly. So we can maybe do that in the future. The second question that I wanted to get out of this meeting is how often to do this, but I guess that's not something I think I was able to define ahead of time. So I think it depends on what we do and how we do it. I think every other week or once a month would be possible to set up. I think weekly is way too much, probably. So we'll see how that goes. And other than that, my best idea for a format would be to go through each initiative and see if there's blockers or see if there's successes that we should celebrate together and see if we can move forward something that seems to be blocked. And I don't have a comprehensive list of all the initiatives represented here, especially not in alphabetical order. But I think the first one may be API first in alphabetical order. So let's start with that. And I'll start taking notes as well. Who wants to talk for API first?
Yep. So first I want to say, Matteo, do you have anything you want to bring up? Because I can bring up a few things, but.
I'm comfortable with you driving this. I mean, we sync every Monday, so you know as much as I do, and vice versa. So.
Okay. So in terms of recent successes, I think the primary one is for API first that we last week reached, after more than a year of work, reached 100% integration test coverage for entities accessible via REST. So every entity type now has test coverage. So whenever there is an accidental change in, for example, authentication, or which fields are provided in a REST API or how they are represented, we will know that now. So there will not be BC breaks happening accidentally, or at least the chance is reduced significantly. So that's a very big win. Things we're still working on, lots of them. Some of them are interestingly overlapping with the workflow initiative. So primarily things that we are finding that both API first and workflow initiative are finding in entity field and type data API. So there's often some interesting overlap and some unblocking of each other. That is happening right now as well. I think API first is not actively blocked in terms of core REST modules and serialization modules on anything in particular. It's not hard blocked in any case. It can move forward. The thing it is most blocked on is reviews from entity fields and type data experts, because we solved a number of fundamental blockers, so API gaps in entity field and type data APIs a few weeks ago. So that unblocked a whole lot of issues, and those issues need reviews. And it's hard to find people who are knowledgeable in those areas to provide those reviews. I think that's the primary area where we are kind of blocked. So that is like the core aspect especially, but we're also trying to move the JSON API contrib module that Mathieu started into Drupal core. There we are working on making it more stable and figuring out if and which things should block JSON API from landing into core. I don't think it makes sense for us to go into detail about that here, but that is basically the next or the thing that is actively happening right now. We reached 100% test coverage for entities, so the high-level stuff. But now we are dealing with how to make sure that it works consistently and without BC breaks for fields, so a level below that, and data types, which is a level below fields. So basically, building more confidence that we are not breaking things and that it works in all scenarios is kind of the area that we're working on, and that helps both the core REST module and the JSON API module. So if anybody is aware of people or has time to review field, entity, or type data API level patches, that would be splendid. I can point you to issues.
I wanted to add just a couple of things on top of that. One is that something that could be very useful is that if we want to move forward with adding JSON API in core, it would be nice to have a core committer to handhold our hands through this, like things that are obviously wrong in the process, or things that questions that we could have, like how do we start, how do we kick this process to move forward. So from the human resourcing perspective, that would be interesting. From the contrib side of API first, there was a 1.0 release of Contenta, which is a distribution that uses the different contribs. And
congrats.
Thank you. That was very exciting, and that kind of has a real-ish demo site, which allowed us to explore the things that are missing, and we had to build some ad hoc contribs to fix some of the problems, which was good for discovering the things that we were missing for doing an actual out of the box decoupled experience. So yeah, apart from that, I think that Wim did a great summary of where things are at.
So in terms of getting more humans involved, do you mean like what kind of techniques you can use to get more contributors or involve people in your work? Or
actually, what I meant is that I know that there are only a few of core committers that can help move a module that's been proposed as experimental to actually make it happen. Mm-hmm. So, but however, without the guidance of a core committer, I don't think that we can move this forward successfully. Or like, it would be nice to have a person to go to ask questions in general and see how this can be moved forward now that we kind of agreed that we want to.
Mm-hmm. That's specifically for JSON API?
Yeah. I don't think we are there yet for auth 2, unless Wim wants to disagree on that?
No, I agree that, well, also we should do one thing at a time, I think. Otherwise we're spreading ourselves thin. I see what you're saying with needing, or it would be nice to have a core committer providing further guidance. But I do think that we are working on trying to establish or figure out which are the areas that are weaker, which are the areas that are strong, and the weaker areas, are they in a good enough place to still be able to land in Drupal core? So what we need to do primarily is build a very good, solid issue.
Is it just me, or did we lose the voice?
We lost the voice, at least I did.
Okay. I don't know what's going on.
There you are.
Huh. I didn't change anything. Yeah, so long story short, I think I have a sense of what needs to happen in order for the process to move a new module into Drupal core, for that to be able to move forward. But I do see Mateu's point about it would be nice if there would be kind of a buddy committer who to ask questions about this particular initiative, the next steps there, and so on.
Right, and if we get someone soon, maybe that's just, hey, thanks for coming by. We don't have anything to ask now. We'll ask again in 2 months, right? That was my point. But I don't want to take more time on this because there's a lot of people that want to update.
Yeah, I think what worked so far is if there's specific, like if you need release management sign off, or if you need framework info, etc., then we can get specific people involved for that. But I think generally, as having a one committer may not work, because framework managers look at things with a different eye, or not necessarily the same eye as release managers. So they may have different feedback on the same topic.
Okay.
So maybe specific questions for specific issues works better so far in the structure that we have for committers. But if anybody else has tips on that, then sure.
That makes sense.
Like if you would have me assigned, then I would definitely be able to provide some nice feedback on the product, specific parts of it, but definitely not the architecture, API, whatever. Okay, so the next one I have, if the alphabetic order that we created in the document is fine, would be JavaScript. We probably need to speed this up a bit. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, there are some outstanding coding standards issues right now that needs review. We added Sally Young as a JavaScript maintainer, so that's good. That should expand the bandwidth of people that are able to review things. And some even harder upcoming coding standards fixes are there. The progress on the sort of React for admin UIs work has been slow. Most of my attention has been on the coding standards stuff at this point. So
is that because, do you have an idea of how we could move forward the React stuff?
Someone else could help with it. And we kind of need a plan of where we want to go. We've sort of exhausted the initial plan of let's build this thing and see how it works. And I think the answer was yes. But every week we have a meeting on Slack where we talk about sort of JavaScript things, but those have kind of been overrun lately with process questions and sort of related to coding standards. So we haven't had a chance related to talk about the next steps for the React work.
Okay, I tried to summarize that in the doc. Okay, So you need some kind of goal to define. I don't know if that could be done outside of the team. I guess that would be. I would think that would be defined within the team, maybe with input from product, probably.
Yeah, there's been some sort of questions. I mean, we have some ideas of where we'd like to go. It's just let's just commit to doing one of these things, and then so
that's definitely up to the team to commit. I mean, nobody else can say that you're going to commit to this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not possible.
So.
Okay. So would bringing somebody from the product team on the meeting help? Like if Roy would be available to go, or me, or something, to try to.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Sort of listen to where we are now and what our proposed ideas for going forward are. So that'd be really helpful.
May mark this as a to-do here. Roy's listening in. Hi, Roy. Okay, that's great. So that we have an action item there. Okay, layouts would be the next in the alphabet.
Hello. Yeah, so layout stuff, we have comps that have product and UX sign off and have had accessibility review, and really it's just implementing them. So it's a lot of heads down time for me, and I have adequate reviewers, and I have committers looking at stuff when I need them to. So everything is going okay. I don't necessarily know at this point that more people would help, since there's not, like, we have to get all the plumbing in place first before we start doing more of the stuff that can be crowdsourced. So as much as I hate it, it's just kind of like I'm just doing all the work, which is fine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Need time.
But yeah, nothing exciting to report other than that it works, and it looks like it did in the trees note.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have a clear path forward.
Cool. That's great. Cool. Okay. I don't think we have anybody from media here, do we? Other than maybe myself. So I think for media, people are heads down on implementing a lot of the missing pieces, including token support and the presentation of different bundles within the view modes experience, and how media is selected and how media is displayed as a possible field, and all of those things. And I've heard that there may be some media sprint in January, but that's secondhand information. And also true for Migrate, by the way. I'm not mixing up the two. So I've heard both are organizing a sprint in January. So that would be exciting to involve more people. But there's definitely a lot of things to do, and a lot of things that the team wants to do before the alpha mid-January. So I think there's also a lack of hands problem there. But other than that, I think the directions are well known there as well. There's major architectural questions to be decided. There's some UX questions that are regularly brought to the UX meetings. Probably the hands. So similar to JavaScript, but probably less so than JavaScript. Yeah, so that would be media. Migrate.
Hey, this is Lucas. We've got a depending on how you count it, about 5 or 6 issues that are blocking migrate going stable across its 3-module namespace. It's been kind of sitting there for a while. We're hoping to get migrate Drupal UI and migrate the API module stable by end of year. And then we, as Gabor here mentioned, we're working towards having a sprint in early January. I want to say like the 11th and 12th sounds right. Virtual to get migrate Drupal, all of its criticals done. Once we can get the criticals done, that's what's blocking stability. Sort of a big milestone. We've been working now for what, 4 years probably on this initiative, and we've been doing a pretty good job of keeping stats. We've got almost 1,200 closed issues, but we still have 200 and almost 300 issues that are open in some form, of which about 5 or 6 are critical and blocking. Areas that we are blocked in, I think our biggest blocker is just exhaustion. We've gone through almost a full revolving door of every maintainer over the last 4 years. And Mike Ryan stepped down earlier this year for real life reasons. So I think there's just been some significant exhaustion on everyone's plate. We did add a maintainer in the last 2 months to help out with documentation. And then, and part of the exhaustion, I think, is that we've just had some of these tough nuts to crack that have been lingering along for 6 and 12 months. And we're close. We just have to get enough energy together to get over the finish line here, to get things stable. After we get things stable, I think the focus is to get things like more content contrib area namespace things migratable. But in general, the space has been stable for a while. It's just been we've got the potential for data loss on some very specific edge cases, or if you're doing incremental migrations. If we weren't doing incremental migrations and we said you can't do incremental migrations, then we could probably go stable a whole lot faster, but we're not doing that. So that's my update.
So committing to incremental migration and harder to make it stable. Probably the longest lingering issue. Ever. It's been a top priority for quite a while. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how we could involve more people in this, because there's not many, there's practically no.
I don't know that for these we really need to involve more people. I think we have been somewhat a little blocked by not having reviewers, but not really that. It's more just it goes a day or two and we post a patch, and another day or two and post a patch, and it just never seems to get over the line. And I'd like to. We'll get there.
Do you think there's not enough confidence that it's good enough, or what do you think? Or there's too many edge cases and stuff to consider? Or the looming idea.
I don't think we have someone from the committers to come in decisively and say, hey, this is almost ready except for these 2 things, and we're kind of nitpicking ourselves to death. And enough of the maintainers have been involved on the patch now that we can't RTBC ourselves. So I'm specifically thinking the audit task 2876085. I'll
28706.
I'll paste it. I'll paste it.
Maybe. If I heard that right.
Come on. It's pretty important to get, as everyone knows, because it's blocking a lot of adoption of Drupal 8. Not because it should, but because all of our I's and T's aren't dotted and crossed.
Because it appears like there's no support for migration.
There's no stable migration path, and when in fact it is pretty stable. It has been for at least a year, if not 2, depending on how you want to argue that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if it helps morale, Lucas, I wanted to mention something that Dries mentioned at some point in some meeting, which is he did migrate his personal sites, and he had no problems at all. So
yeah, no, definitely. When most of the maintainers are involved in some form of doing this as a business, I do lots of migrations. That's what Mike does. That's what Vicky does. Quiet One. It's our bread and butter. We know it. We know it's stable. It's just frustrating that we can't market stable.
So Roy is asking on the channel if Migrate can maybe split off some follow-ups in order to get off chunks of the remaining criticals committed sooner. Is that a thing that has been considered?
That would be a discussion for the product managers, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
between Jess and WebCheck and Catch, right? Do I have all the?
No, product is Roy, me, and NG.
Okay, release managers then.
Yeah, release is Catch and Jess and somewhat Alex. And
someone else is going to have to decide. We've kind of drawn a line that the criticals are necessary, and these are legitimately important.
Yeah.
All very well documented. I would say if we don't get there by the end of this year, and it still drags another couple of weeks, and we come out of that sprint in January, and we're still not marking everything stable or pretty close, that would be my plea, is can we just mark it stable anyways?
Yeah, the January sprint is pretty close to the alpha deadline also. It requires a strong involvement from a core committer to make
I did get Alex to make himself available. So we'll have Alex, and we've got like 5 or 6 maintainers who are going to be able to meet up. So, I mean, we got 6 bright people. We should be able to do it. But I don't want to take up too much time. You've got more on the list.
So that's a great point that we should reevaluate the goals if we want to be realistic about some of these things.
It would be awful nice to make 8.5 with a stable migrate.
Okay. Cool. Those are all good points. My next one is out of the box.
Hi everyone. So yeah, we've made steady progress. We've, in terms of successes, we've got an installation profile that is install. On install gives you recipes, gives you articles, and seems to be working quite well. That's based on Contenta, so it's big thanks to them for the work they've done. So we've got that bringing in the actual recipes work that they've got going on there.
Yay.
brilliant. And we're theming against that as a team. So we've actually got a workflow where we're working over in GitHub, and we've got a composer install that effectively sort of brings the two parts together of profile with the default content and the theme parts. Theme is coming along really well. We've got all of this running on a platform instance as well, which is linked to from the main issue, and yeah, it's coming together really nicely. It's starting to look pretty close to the designs, which is great. And the current work is focused on just obviously moving from we've focused mainly on recipes so far, so getting the recipe page really nailed down in terms of theming and obviously getting the content laid out, and now we're sort of moving across to articles and the front page. And in terms of challenges, I think it's probably pretty similar to others. It's just obviously time available for people to get involved, and code review as well. We're sort of working on these two parts at once over in GitHub, and so we've got conversations going on about how that actually needs to be reviewed. Lowry's been helping us out with that, and in terms of blockers, again, it's mainly time. My colleague Gareth's been doing really well with progressing the profile. He's the one that's sort of taken it to the point where we've got it now at. He's got a few issues that he's trying to resolve around images and getting the actual content to install. It's currently a two-step process because we've got the content living in a module which needs to be enabled. So I think he's looking at that, and we're certainly scheduled to look at that next week, all going well. Yeah, finding extra support for Gareth wouldn't be a bad thing. I think that's mainly it for now. Unless Christina can think of anything else.
So is that something that the Contenta people would be able to look at if this is based on their work?
Quite possibly. I think that was something Gareth mentioned, that one of them had mentioned in the issue queue. Ping them for help.
Because it sounds like this is an extension of what they are doing. So maybe if they want to do more complex sample content as well, then it's better to align efforts here.
Yeah, definitely. It would be super helpful. I think Gareth said that his intention was to go to Contenta's channel and ask for some help when he's ready for doing so, because I think right now he's a little bit busy with all the stuff.
I would say go for it, because at this particular moment we are in the weirdest place ever, where we have people asking, "What can I do?" and we say, "I don't know." So this would be a great way to collaborate.
That's cool.
No, that's the kind of value that I hope to get out of this.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah. Let's talk later. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, I'll jump on the channel if Gareth's not available after later today or going on.
Yeah, I think the other big issue that we had is that we didn't know where to go. What were the steps we should follow to start having some alpha? What was the minimum to have ready? And as Keith said, Lowry helped us with that. So having a core committer with a lot of experience is something really helpful.
So that works out so far, or do you need more of the kind of input?
I think we still need to work a little bit more, but to have something ready. But just go ahead, Keith.
Well, no, I mean the only area where I think we've had conversations where there's sort of question marks as far as advice needed, I guess, from core commit is going to be things like the size of the actual size of this profile, if images are included on install, or can we find a way to do the images separately, and also and this ties in with layout, is are we building a theme that's solely for the purpose of what we're demoing and the reasons for demoing it, where effectively you're hardwiring fields inside of twig files to do the actual theming like you typically would on a commercial project, perhaps, versus using the experimental field layout. Those types of things, yeah, they're probably things that we should be keeping in mind still at the moment, because it dramatically changes direction, doesn't it, with theming? And so
don't use field layout. Don't use field layout.
Okay.
Field layout, please. Thanks. For the record, that is we should have a follow-up conversation about that, though.
Okay.
Don't use field layout.
Okay.
Yep, I think that's everything.
Yeah.
So the next initiative that we've had in maintainer stacks was PHP unit, and that was my mistake that I have not reached out to anyone from PHP unit to attend this meeting, and we don't have anyone from there here. Daniel pinged me, but then he went away, so I wasn't successful in bringing anybody in the meantime. Whoops. Okay, solved that. So so hopefully that's going to be improved for the next meeting. And then I have settings tray up next.
Sure. So we have an issue to mark it as stable, which I will put the link in the chat in a second. And met with the Andrew McPherson, I think was his name, the accessibility maintainer last week, and I thought that was a pretty good meeting. He didn't see any big red flags. There's some accessibility issues, mostly around keyboard navigation and the contextual module, which settings tray just sort of surfaced. There is the one issue besides that I know that we have marked as getting stable is the sort of JavaScript, the final JavaScript review, and then there is an issue with displaying the message that you're in edit mode, which I thought was going to be very easy, but it's kind of tricky with the contextual module because it restricts tabbing. So if you show a message using a regular dialog, the tabbing is restricted away from that. So trying to figure out a solution for that. But I think looks pretty good for stable 4.8.5. Hopefully.
You're looking forward to be a short-lived person in this meeting.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Move on. Okay. So it's the issue with the contextual module. Do you need help there, or is that well covered? Or
I do need help on I need reviews on the contextual module issues, which this is the stable issue that I just put in here. And then this is the accessibility one, which lists issues not necessarily with the settings tray module, but just things that are surfaced through it. And the second issue links to the UR in edit mode. So if anybody actually has ideas for that, I would be interested. It's kind of tricky because it's, I guess, ideas that are to determine if we just have to make changes to the contextual module, or if there are other solutions around that. And this is that issue. I think that's it.
okay.
Oh, sorry. There is one other issue that is blocking that's maybe was gonna would get other people in other situations is there's an issue to not show the block form when it's overridden, when the block currently is overridden, because you can't really know what's overridden, so you can't actually make a form that is going to show you the overridden options. So that one I just links to another issue that adds to the config to a config class to say add a git overrides method that would basically be able to tell if it's overridden at least. And I know that's needed for a few other things. So that would be a prerequisite for us being able to disable the form or not show the form if it's overridden. So that also could get help getting that related one in. And that's it.
All right. So there's some specific requests there. So you don't have a generic high-level problem. That's cool. And that's cool. Just specific issues to solve. So we can try to promote those as well. And then workflow is the last one on my list.
Hey.
So
in the workflow initiative, we've been hard at work on the workspaces module. We're basically rewriting the proof of concept patch, which is already posted in the issue queue. Yeah, so rewriting it and sorry.
You are rewriting it?
Yeah, we are adding test coverage for every aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently most of it needed to be fixed, and a lot of complexity was removed from that patch because we decided to do some things differently. We also removed all the fancy UI stuff, for example, and we will do that as a follow-up because we want the base module to be as solid as possible, because that's the most important part, not having data integrity issues and stuff like that. And yeah, also fixing a lot of core deficiencies in the process, like very long-standing ones. Some recent ones to mention are, for example, we defined the behavior of computed fields. We fixed an issue to be able to purge base fields and stuff like that. That was just sitting there in the queue for years with no one looking at them. And we're not really blocked on anything except for the number of hours in the day. We're trying to push the workspaces module as beta for 8.5. Not really sure if that will happen, but that's the goal at least for now. And I'm not sure about something else. Oh, okay, yeah, right. For 8.5, we would also like to have content moderation marked stable. It's in beta right now. It's still blocked on the same issue, which blocked it from being marked as stable in 8.4. I'm not really sure what we can do there. It needs committer attention or someone who knows views very well. But yeah, that would be a very nice.
Do you have an issue number for that, or some specific reference to?
Sorry?
Do you have an issue number for that?
Oh yeah, sure. I can look it up.
That sounds very unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. It's about providing views filter, basically. There's also another issue, which is also a blocker for stable, but that one is blocked on this one. And that one is already, let's say, soft RTBC'd by Angie already. So it's really this one that's the blocker.
And this one needs, I'm still loading it. It needs reviewer, committer, or what? Or UX feedback?
No, I think we asked UX feedback. It needs review from, like I said, like someone who knows views and has a patience to try a lot of things, I guess. Jess has started this review process, and she has a list of things that she wanted to check. So
I can chime in a little bit here. So Acquia is sponsoring Damien Kloip, and he's been working out or helping out with API first things especially, but he's also going to be tackling or going to be reviewing these issues. Fortunately, he hasn't gotten to it yet. And I know that next week he's not going to be available, so it's not going to be maybe this week, but he's actively working on other stuff. Next week is definitely not going to happen. Maybe the week after. So obviously he would be able to do so. And actually, he's kind of blocked on feedback from you, Andre. So maybe you can exchange patch reviews essentially.
Yeah, I know. I thought I answered in that issue, but yeah.
That's good.
Anyway, I think that's about it for the workflow initiative.
So this seems to be your main blocker, and you said that you were making good progress on the rewrite of the workspaces.
Yes.
So is that rewrite in need of architecture feedback or whatever?
Not yet. We have a few things left that we want to get right before starting to post patches in the core queue again. Basically, we want complete test coverage for the really basic functionality of the module. That would be entity loads, entity queries, and views queries. That's what the workspace module does mostly. It alters all of that. So after we have complete test coverage for that and we know that it's working, we'll start posting patches again in the core queue. Right now we're just working in the contrib module. I mean, it's still, everyone can look at what's going on. It's just not in the core queue at the moment.
Okay.
But we should have something probably next week. Maybe sooner, not sure.
Okay. Keep a note of that as well. All right. Is some major topic area that I missed maybe? That was not yet listed. Okay. Are there things that people are looking to resolve on this call that we did not get to? Any way I can help connect the dots and get the right people in something that... Not really. Okay, so if we collected all the areas that we need help on, that's great. So I will try my best to connect some dots and find the right people. I'll get product manager person on JavaScript, promote some of the API first stuff, leave layouts working, figure out when we can reevaluate the migrates roadmap. I think out of the box is going to be helped by Contenta, get PHP unit people on this call, promote the settings for issues, and we seem to be getting some help for content moderation already, so that's great. Cool. So was this call useful to look through these things? Should we keep doing these?
Yeah, I think very useful. I don't know about how frequently, but it seems useful.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. I don't know if another one before Christmas will help, at least for me, but definitely after that, before Alpha. Yeah,
so in 2 weeks, that would be very close to Christmas, I guess. So that's probably at a time when like everybody's checked out anyway.
What about the 4th of January?
We can do that, yeah. So that would be in 4 weeks, yeah. Good plan. Okay, so I will, in the meantime, I will try to help connect these dots and find the right people for the right things. And I will schedule the next one for the 4th of January. And if we have a technology that can take more than 10 people, then we'll set up the meeting with that. So looking forward to suggestions offline for that. I've heard that some people have Zooms that may be capable to do that. Okay, so if there's nothing else, then we can end the meeting and let everyone spend their time better.
That's
Thank you.
impossible. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.